Wow. Oh, wait. Yep. Hello.
Is it time? Is it happening?
My camera froze.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if they can hear me.
I see us. I see us. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't see you. I see your ghostly form hanging out in the Continental. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I don't actually see me.
This is great.
Yeah. All right. Well, I suppose that's just the way we're gonna do it now.
It's because you're wearing that all green suit. I said it wasn't gonna work. And now here we are. Oh my gosh. This is fantastic. I'm really excited about this because Justin said that we were like planning our backgrounds, and it's always like, who's going to pick what background? And I heard that Justin was live from the Continental, and so I'm happy to be here in this John Wick fight scene. It's perfect. It's perfect. Gosh, technical difficulties are fun, aren't they? Ooh, it's coming. We're loading up. This is great.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. All right.
You back? Returned? I'm checking it out for ghost purposes.
You could kick it off with Bryte.
I could do it. All right, soup folks. To welcome for souping it up with us.
I have returned.
You have returned?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's okay. Hi everybody. Welcome to OwlBearSoup, where technical difficulties all happen live.
Yeah. Did it. I've been looking at the stream, and it looks like you have a big piece of bacon behind you on my small screen.
Oh, let's see here.
Yeah,
bacon,
right there. Yeah.
Right there. Yeah. Yeah, that's a map of New York. Right. See if I can do this. Right there is John Wick's picture, because at this point he's already wanted in a movie.
Right. I like it. Now I'm going to think about it that way. Manhattan, the big piece of bacon.
All right. Yeah. So we kicked off, and I made you start talking about Bryte because I was nowhere near my computer at the moment.
That's what it was. I was like, it was like a coded message.
Yeah. Talk about something burning.
What? Well, I certainly could. I'm really excited. Just jump into it because this is news to you as well, right? Bryte.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about it in passing, but not really a lot of it.
It's a game that they've been working on for about 3 years, and it is specifically. I know James Introcaso is working on it in tandem with Roll20. They've been teamed up on this the entire time. It is the first role-playing game that has been tailored for exclusive play on the Roll20 platform, which is wild to me. Totally wild.
And you said exclusive play, so that leads me to believe that there's not going to be a tabletop version of this RPG.
I don't see anything anywhere that suggests there will be. Now, could there be? I don't know. But they've been focused on making sure that the mechanics are based on the platform and like what the platform offers in particular. So a lot of use of the tokens in the game and moving them around the map. There's a lot of dice rolling, simple mechanics. They also want to make sure that you are, if you roll on a random table, they want that to be super quick and engaging and part of the story, because those random tables are kind of a big deal. So, yeah. It seems wild. It doesn't seem like you wouldn't be able to play it offline, but that's just not how they're doing it.
Right.
This is so cool though, because it is, I know you like Starfinder. This feels like yeah, right.
Yeah.
This feels like Firefly in a universe that is dying, and you are trying to like help the last folks during this burn, which is like the galaxy almost collapsing. So it feels like apocalyptic. It feels people are going to be scared, and you are playing these heroes taking care of it. And that's interesting. A lot of sci-fi games have a very similar theme. I'm excited about our ship. I'm excited about all those things. And so you know, I'm intrigued because it's on Roll20, but you know me, I haven't delved in just yet. The thing that might make me delve in is actually the core mechanic of this game. And I read about this and I was just like freaking out. I love it so much. um, hey, you know how in D&D you play this trained adventurer,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
And when you
I'm
roll the dice, oh sorry, go
mhm.
ahead.
Oh no, I was
Tell
like,
me,
I'm a hero right out of the gate. I
right?
walk
Right?
out. I'm good at things. I feel like I can save the world.
And so you like go in and you're like, yeah, big heroic fighter. You're swinging your sword. When you roll the dice, what's the question you have in your mind when you roll the dice?
What am I gonna have for dinner?
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. You've got those special like dinner dice. Roll 3d6 and I don't know, make that.
What did I crit?
Right? Right. That's kind of it, right? We
Right.
are playing these heroes, and the question is like, will I succeed? Do I hit? Will I crit?
Mhm.
Right? We're heroes. Like, shouldn't we already hit? Like, the question in Burn Bright is, did I fail when I roll the dice? Because you are
Mhm.
expected to be successful in your skill checks. Like,
Oh,
are you a hacker? Great, you succeed. Unless when you roll the dice, you fail.
right. I was I've been reading the Pathfinder Second Edition book
Mhm.
lately. Getting ready, potentially playing a game, and one of the things I dislike about it is um, there are rules for failures,
Mhm.
and I don't I feel like we're heroes, and that aspect of it, I don't know how it's going to play out because I haven't actually played the
Yeah.
game. But for a
Yeah.
lot of skills and a lot of skill feats, there's a critical success, a success, and a critical failure,
Yeah.
right? And the fact that there's a critical failure and bad stuff happens, it's like the roll of a one is only 5%, right? And how often are you going to be rolling dice, right? So
Right.
I love that idea of like, no, you're just expected to succeed,
Mhm.
and then there's this super rare chance that you'll fail.
Ooh.
And if I remember correctly, the failure mechanic has to do with how many duplicates or something you roll.
Yes. Yes, right? The game is all about complexity. So tasks that are not complex, you only roll like a die, maybe two dice, right?
Hmm.
And you only fail if you roll doubles. But more complex tasks, you might roll more dice,
Hmm.
making it more likely, right? But things that you are good at, you have a higher die type for. So, like the things you're great at, like if you are a super hacker, maybe your hacking skill is a D12.
Yeah.
And so, you know, well, this is a complex task, so roll 3d12. If you roll doubles, you fail. Like it's hard enough to like mathematically crack, but you're still like, I don't think I'm gonna roll doubles on 3D, 3d12. I'll try it out, right? And the odds are down. But on 3d4, I'm
Right.
probably gonna roll doubles.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
Um,
man.
but I love that because it's suddenly I know I have an expectation about what could happen. Yeah, I could still roll doubles, and that could change things. There's instantly there's a consequence for failure, and they basically have like a random table, and they're all very vague things that could happen. And they're like, well, when you fail, roll and see what the consequence is of this. Um, so I like it because it's a risk on your end. It's not just a standard like roll a d20 and a one is bad, right?
Hmm.
That just happens all the time. It's like,
Right.
okay, well, I've got or the difficulty's four. I've got a d8. I'm willing to risk those odds. I might
Hmm.
fail, but like I suddenly have this better idea about what these failures might be than in any d20 game I've ever played.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty interesting way of like scaling skill. I really like that a lot. I always enjoyed the systems that used different size dice based
Yeah.
on how good you were at something.
Hmm.
And then I feel like this system is kind of taking it to the next level, in that now you're like, oh, here's a pool of dice, right?
Hmm.
You're you have this complex task ahead of you. It's like, oh well, that's pretty tough. You're gonna have to roll 6 dice there, buddy.
Yeah.
But I roll D100s, so
So everything's fine. I
everything's
love
fine.
it. Yeah, I played a lot of Deadlands, which has that. Your thing you're best at. You've got D12s, but it was still like trying to roll as high as you can. And that game
Mhm.
has the ace mechanic, where if you roll like a 12 on a D12, you get to roll another one and add it to it.
Yeah.
Meant your D6s could go just wild, just raise forever. But there was still those moments when I'm rolling 5d12 and I just roll like a bunch of ones and twos, and I don't succeed at a basic task. And
Right.
that was really frustrating. And this game is like, well, if you've got D12s and the difficulty is 2, the odds of you fail, you're gonna succeed, right? So the odds of failure are so low um,
Right.
that you're just gonna do it. So I like this mechanic, especially on Roll20, because the thing that we can now do is, if you think about where we came from in second ed versus like fifth ed streaming games, like success is the norm, I think, in D&D right now. And failure is just not as interesting of a story. It's kind of a
Right.
cool consequence and a thing that can change things. But like
Mhm.
our, especially streaming games, like they don't get off those rails very often. They're kind of headed in one direction. And
Yeah.
the heroes are going to tell the story that they want to tell. And
Mhm.
I think it's a cool idea for that.
No, yeah, I really dig it. There's a lot of, there's a lot of speed to it too, right?
Uh,
It's you just look at the dice quick and you can tell, all right, there you go. It's not a bunch of complicated math.
yeah.
And it's the fun of rolling a handful of dice.
hmm Yeah. Very good. Very good. Sorry, Jonathan in the chat just mentioned that there was an actual there was someone at Gen Con who had blessed dice that had been cursed with bad rolls, which is a lot better than the freezer jail my friends did.
Oh no. I had a roommate for a while who eventually got to the point with certain dice he did the hammer thing. He was just like, "Oh, you're done."
You're done. Wow. That's amazing. Wow. I like this. I was also looking at the game. There's a the question that you ask is very different. It's not like the GM says, uh, someone's looking out for you. You need to hide. You need to make a stealth check. It's a lot more. It's meant to be loose. It's meant to be kind of on your end to decide what happens. The GM rarely rolls dice or makes decisions like that. So guards are coming. What skill do you use to handle the situation? And so it's
Right.
meant for like broader play, very simpler success and failure decisions, like you were saying. Like I would play this game anytime, and I think this would be a very quick one to teach people as well.
Yeah. When's that roll out?
You can pick it up on July 7th. It's up for pre-order right now. The core rule book, a starter adventure, some tile art packs, a bunch of character art packs, and things that you need. Whatever you need to play it on Roll20, basically immediately. Ooh,
Awesome.
ooh, ooh! This bundle right now, and again, can only be used with Roll20. Cannot be downloaded.
Oh,
So they might like change it. There might be a core rule book that gets printed later on, but
for the
yeah,
time being, roll
they're
20 is the only way to play it.
yeah.
And that's a, there's a lot of different virtual tabletops that are rolling out. And there's a lot of different virtual ways to play board games, tabletop games, all that stuff. I wonder how long it is until Fantasy Ground says, all right, well, if you want to play our special RPG,
hmm
you're gonna have to use our platform. And virtual tabletop will be like, all right, well, if you want to play this special version or this special game, you can only play it here.
Right. I don't think that's bad for, role playing either. Honestly, like
Hmm.
this is a new system I'm excited about. It's not indie. I mean, it's tied to this major thing. So, are we going to get these different systems that start springing up and can actually compete with D&D? That's wild to me. That's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah. They're going to be competing in a very different space too, where
Mhm.
it's like we have D&D, but D&D is a tabletop game, right? We think
Uh,
of it as a way to play around with friends, and it's built for that. It's
yeah.
not built for playing on Roll20. Now, Roll20 has adapted to play it and other virtual tabletop programs, but uh, but games built for that system within that system, maybe that's the edge that something needs to kind of you know have more competition out there
Mhm.
besides the big three or four in the RPG space.
Yeah. Yep. It
I
should be
like it.
good. Yeah, I know James Introcaso has one of like the main starter adventures for D&D on Roll20. So I know there's like huge system familiarity here. I know that
Hmm.
I'm sure they have a great idea about what they're talking about with making this Roll20 like highlight all the cool things. And I want to see it. I want to see it in action. So,
Yeah.
oh, we'll see if I take that plunge. But I'm really excited to try it out.
So, let's see here. I had one thing I just wanted to hit on because we don't always stick to just board game stuff, and this was something I kind of wanted to kick off the show with a little
Mhm.
bit and talk about two things. One, in Twitch news, we're on Twitch. There's a lot of stuff going on with Twitch. Apparently, Twitch is listening. Blackout Friday worked, and a lot of really toxic streamers have been banned, including Dr. Disrespect, who is apparently being given a permanent ban. So, good on Twitch for, starting to step it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But on the good side of news, there has been a couple of very exciting announcements from the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And yeah, it's
You didn't tell me what they were. I'm ready.
I know. So Margot Robbie and Christina Hodson have been signed on to be part of it. So Margot Robbie, of course, is Harley Quinn, and Christina Hodson is the writer and director of Birds of Prey. I'll have to double check that, but she's the one behind Birds of Prey. So, I think they worked really well together in that movie, and and if that's who's taking up the helm of Pirates of the Caribbean, I'm very excited.
That sounds like that was such a fun movie. I'm excited for that fun of pirates to come back. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
I was gonna dive in more, and then I was like, I don't want to hurt Justin right now, so I won't do it. I won't. Pirates of the Caribbean. I just love it. I love it. I love going on the ride when I'm down there. Yeah, it's just great.
I love Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah,
I love everything about it.
It's all good.
It's all good. Okay, so yeah, it's a pirate movie watch. And so one other thing I wanted to kind of kick on and kind of start talking about a little bit is more information about Rime of the Frost Maiden is coming out. A lot of it is on the D&D Dragon Plus app. So a couple of the things, one of the things that actually really stood out to me that was mentioned in the app is the idea of secrecy. Secrecy is kind of one of the themes. That's definitely something that you saw in movies like The Thing. And the idea, based on what I understand, is maybe there's a secret deck and you draw a secret from the deck, and that's your player's secret. Or and if you don't like that secret, you can draw another one, right? It's not that restrictive, right?
Okay.
And then you have the secret, which is why you are, journeying to the north, journeying to Icewind Dale.
Mm-hmm.
And that secret, you can either keep it closely hidden, or you can, openly, you do with it what you will. But it's just another role-playing tool that'll be added to, your tackle box, as it were.
Wow. I can't remember if you have played Mansions of Madness, right? But in the second edition, when you take enough sanity damage or whatever, Mansions of Madness stuff, you end up getting you come back full health, but you gain a new win condition for the game. Like you pick up a secret, you're not allowed to show it to anyone, and it tells you how to win the game. And some of those are like, you're fine. You just win the game if everybody else wins the game. Some are you only win if you have the most items. Some are you only win if you set a bunch of fires. Like there's a whole bunch of interesting stuff. And while, that's we could have a very long conversation about the way they approach sanity and things like that. And the new Fate Cthulhu I'm very excited about because they're fixing some of these things and ideas. But what I loved about it is the idea that I, as a player, have a secret win condition that you don't know about. Like I want to do this thing. And that changes how I play. And immediately when it happens, you start looking at the board again and you look over everything and you're like, I don't know, maybe I'll go over there and do this, or maybe I'll hope that you do this, or maybe I'll start lying to you and tell you to go to attack the monster because I, need you to die to that monster.
Right.
And it's so much fun. So I love that hope. Now I have this hope that, my character starts acting strangely and your character starts acting strangely, and we're it's revealed that one of us might be the thing, and we're like, well, hold on. You picked up that secret and you told us that's what it meant, but I'm not sure that that's actually what it means now. That's a great way to build in the suspense that I'm kind of hoping for.
Yeah, and I hope some of it is like that. And it doesn't sound like it's it's not so much a PvP thing, but it's more of a character driven thing.
Yeah.
Which I like too.
Fair.
I don't want, one. I think when we talked about this a little bit before, I don't want that one player who draws the card and it's like, all right, well now I have to be malicious to the rest of the party. It's like,
yeah,
that's not fun. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Also, in that Dragon Plus article, or not, on the Dragon Plus app talking about this, there's also an interview with April Prime. And they're the artists behind the Snowy Owlbear. So, if you need more Owlbear goodness in your life, that is a great place to go.
Gosh, now I'm just thinking about secrets. Just thinking about them. It's so good. Like, you know that there is a secret treasure in an icy pool, and so like constantly in adventures, you're like, oh my god, hold on, everybody, stop.
Yeah.
I gotta dive into this lake real quick.
Mhm. You know,
um, oh yeah.
yeah, they did a little bit of that with Dungeon and Mad Mage in that there is a deck of like sub adventures, not sub quests that you can get from people. You can hear these rumors, you can pick them up. Some of them, I think some of them aren't true at all, but most of them have like little hooks of things that you can find within the dungeon and Mad Mage, and I think that's great. I like any kind of like
Yeah.
extra thing you can bring into the adventure to make it more interesting. You know?
Yeah. I love having a unique hook into a story, right? I just
Mhm.
do. Make our characters at the start, and we all think about our backstories and our clever, whatever. And then we play a published adventure. Like, those can't possibly be part of it unless the DM is really, really good and able to work them in. But if I gain them specifically to the story, and it's still my unique thing, I'm in. That that
Right.
that sells me easily.
Yeah.
Dang it! I'm really gonna have to play this game, aren't I?
Justin's vibe, pirates. Richard's vibe, thinking about secrets.
That's yeah, that's
Thanks,
true.
Jonathan. um, in other news, Paizo and other people are talking about their Gen Con online event registration. Apparently, the way Paizo is going to be running their events is going to be very similar to the way they ran it through PaizoCon. Apparently, that was a success.
Oh.
Oh
Okay,
no!
that's fine. No, it's just on Warhorn. I
Yeah,
guess it worked, but it was hard to look at. It was a tough interface.
yeah. So
Um,
I don't know all the details, but if you're into playing some Pathfinder, Starfinder, Paizo games,
mhm.
that's up. I don't
Well,
think I'll be participating, but
yeah. I'll say on that note, like, looking at, honestly, PaizoCon and D&D Live were pretty similar experiences for the most part. PaizoCon, at the very least, you can kind of see what is happening and what the tiers are in the adventure. I mean, I can't think of a better way to do it. It's just,
yeah.
it's not going to be the easiest thing to look through for anyone, and that's just the way it's going to be this year.
Yeah, well, Warhorn's built for that though. Like I like Warhorn for that type of stuff for anything organized play. It's kind of built for that. So when you kind of try to use a different system, like uh, the Adventures League, at least in the Portland area, they use Meetup instead of Warhorn,
Yeah.
and and that's always it's a little harder to organize, at least in my
Mhm.
head. But
Right.
they're still doing fine. So who am I to judge? I guess.
It's true. It's true.
Let's see here. Before we get to the big topic of the day, I had one more thing. Is Raiders of the Lost Sea is on iOS. That I think that hit this week. If it didn't hit this week, I picked it up this week, and that is
Mhm.
a fantastic board game that has been converted to an iOS game, and it's one of my favorite worker placement games. And they did a fantastic job with the port. Totally worth checking out.
I'm gonna have to pick that up for sure because
Yeah.
I need one. I need one really bad. Like, I'm waiting for a game that I've Dwellings of Eldervale to arrive because I love that worker placement game. But I need something to fill my iOS time besides
Yeah.
Sudoku.
Mine's mostly filled with what the Vault. Oh God, what is it? Why can't I remember it? It's the Fallout Vault game where it's like you
Oh,
just have little
yeah,
Sims. So I spent a lot of time doing that. And I spent a lot of time playing Hearthstone.
yeah.
But now I'm going to be playing some Raiders of the Lost Sea because that's a ton of fun.
Gotcha. No, real stuff here. Hearthstone talk.
Yeah.
What's your game mode? I only play Battlegrounds now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I play Story and Tavern Brawl.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
that's pretty much it. I do play the Fallout Shelter. Thank you. I do play against people on occasion, but just
Mhm.
mostly to finish quests.
Yeah.
And I only play with Zale's Cloak deck, which
Is that
is
the randomized deck?
yeah, it's a
Okay.
randomized deck, and that's all I play with. Right.
Yeah.
When the new expansion came out and there was Witch Hunters, I built a Witch Hunter deck because I had 1,000,010 things to build stuff. And then I was like, you know what? I just like the random deck. Like I just show up, I have no clue what I'm playing, and I just play it.
Yep.
So long as they keep putting out the random decks, I'll keep doing the quests and enjoying that. But yeah, I haven't played the other modes yet. What do you think of them?
Battlegrounds is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The auto chess idea is really interesting to me. I liked arena mode because I enjoy construction,
Yeah.
kind of. I really don't like constructing decks and then trying it again, but the path of arena construction, which is just like, here's 3 cards, which one do you want? And we'll do that a whole bunch. Like, that limit is really good for me. You
Yeah.
know, constructing a deck out of the Witch Hunter stuff, there was just so much. There was so much, and it was just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. So Battlegrounds is really good because it's got that same sort of feel. Like, on my first turn, I have 3 gold to spend. There's only 3 options. Which one of them do I want, right? And
Right.
so by limiting choices constantly and kind of hoping that your build comes out, I really enjoy that. So I'm excited for this one. I also want to try out. I have not tried out the League of Legends one. They have an auto chess that I want to play as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like Dota Overlords. I played
Hmm.
that a fair amount too.
Yeah.
So that's another auto. I like auto chess. Auto chess is
Yeah.
kind of fun.
Right.
Uh,
It's all the fun of chess, but you don't have to know stuff.
I haven't played it much on the Hearthstone version yet, because when I played it, it was like when it first came out. So it's
Yeah.
just like everyone was playing the exact same thing over and over again. I was just like, yeah, this is boring.
Yeah.
So
That makes
and it
sense.
is Witch Hunter, just like Vin Diesel, Jonathan.
Whoa. Yeah. Wow. Very elven.
Uh,
Very elven, these witch hunters.
yeah.
Just like Vin Diesel.
Just like Vin Diesel.
Hmm.
And you know, the Witch Hunters are an interesting kind of class in World of Warcraft, based on my understanding of them. I don't know if they're Horde or Alliance or any of that, but I'm going through the storyline with Hearthstone, and it feels like it's probably an Alliance class, and I don't know. Once again, don't know this for sure.
Right.
I feel like it's an Alliance clan or class, because they feel like a class that has, you know, pushed the path to being a warlock to the very edge and then stopped, because they were like, I want to fight fire with fire. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And I get that feeling, and I like that. That storyline is fun. You know, it's one of the reasons why I'm glad that the Blood Hunter is available on D&D Beyond as well. Like, you know, warlocks already, but I love those classes that you get. The more options you get, where like, I'm a hero, but I'm a dark hero. Like, I'm gonna push a little closer. Every single camp, there's always one kid who was like, what's the Blood Hunter, and can I play that? There's always a warlock for 100%, but someone also wants to play the Blood Hunter.
I've not delved into the Blood Hunter too much, so I don't know how well it really balances out, but
No idea.
I keep looking at it going, maybe one of these days I'll make one. I don't know.
Yeah, everyone usually says, I'll pick something else, and it's okay. But yeah, the Witch Hunter in World of Warcraft is interesting because, yeah, it gives those. I always played Horde, so it gives that shiny alliance, whatever, chance to be mean. Yeah, Horde forever. That's
Okay, great. I'm into it. I think, you know, the amount of time that I tallied on that game between World of Warcraft when it first came out and World of Warcraft Classic that just came out recently would be you would look at it and you go, well, he didn't get his money's worth.
Oh.
Out of the 2 times I tried it. It just wasn't for me. But
yeah,
I was always an EverQuest player, so slightly different style.
Fair enough.
But you did bring up something interesting that we should chat about real quick, and that's summer camp.
Oh gosh,
how's your week of summer camp been? This was a big week.
There were 3 camps this week. It was still apprentice level, but there was the 2 camps for kids and then 1 for adults, and that was the first adult camp. So it was so much fun. Like, and it was kind of challenging. So I'm telling these stories, right? The first day. Have we talked about heists and honey yet, or honey and heists?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm running this ridiculous bear crimes adventure for everybody. And the first group of kids is totally in. Like, it's so wild because some of the kids are a little bit older, and so they're like, ooh, I'm going to hack everything. And some are a little bit younger, and they're like, I'm going to yell at everything. And then I get this group of adults, and they're all over the place. Like, it's just like suddenly I'm in a candy store, and I can do whatever, right? It's this moment. I know, I don't know. I just don't feel like you get enough as an adult, right? So you have the opportunity, you're presented with this ridiculous situation, and you're like, I'm going to be as ridiculous as possible. I'm going for it. And it was so great. We had super hackers like watching everything. We had bears rushing and attacking rope, destroying them in the woods. Tons of honey being captured, and it was just fun. It was a really fun moment to have this cool group just like adults meet each other for the first time with this story. It's not how I see adults interacting a whole lot, and that was like a kind of a hopeful, like a very positive moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had a great person who was there who was watching this right now as well. So,
Oh,
I won't get into too many details in particular, but
something
it
about
was so
cabin
fun.
42. Not to
Oh
point
my
anyone
gosh,
out.
yeah. Gosh, it was just fun. That's such a silly game. I love it so much. And then we jumped into D&D. D&D was solid. I realized a couple things, right? Kids are super good at just kind of, they learning quickly. They're in school. They're just focused on this, right? Teaching D&D to adults is not something. Well, I mean, I've done it. I played with adults more, right? But somehow with kids, I was just able to like work it out. But adults, I was skipping past a couple things that I felt could be skipped past, and it was a huge
Mhm.
mistake. It was a huge
Oh,
mistake.
oh no.
It wasn't like a dreadful mistake or anything, but it was like I have internalized the 6 ability scores of D&D to such an extent that I stopped talking about them. It's just,
Right.
intelligence, you know what that means. Charisma, like beyond a basic description. There's a great section in the player's handbook, and it's the using ability score section, which I, as a D&D player, never look at anymore. But it's such a great way to break the entire game down. Like, it's the system that tells the mechanical story of the game. My kids didn't need it so much because they're just like, just tell me what to roll and I'll roll it. And I'm in. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I want to steal something. I want to slap someone. There's a
Yeah.
lot of slapping in one group. But yeah, like teaching the mechanics in a way that someone could within just 1 week, like not only learn to play but then understand it so they could play it with their kids later on was quite a challenge in that 1 week. And I'm hopeful that we got there. I think we, given the folks in the group, I think we did. But wow, it's tough. It's tough. It's tough to learn D&D.
Yeah. That's awesome. And did you have like a variety of skill at the table, or like what was the breadth of knowledge at your table as far as that
Let's see.
went?
For our adult group, we had one person with some experience who I will not name. We had, and then it was really interesting for everyone else, right? One person had played like maybe second edition or learned second edition, and then never found a group again.
Oh.
So, and then just was like, why not? Let's try this out. There was someone who one of their parents used to play and now doesn't play, and they were like, well, so like I don't know, maybe in his 20s or early 30s, something like that. Like, well, if I learn how to play, then I can play, with my parents, and that
Mhm.
was very cool. And then a couple people who their kids were super excited to play, and they've seen some, but they just didn't have the outlets for it. Like with the quarantine, it was like, well, now
Yeah.
how am I going to teach my kids to play? I can't take them anywhere. So
Mhm.
they jumped in and had a lot of fun with it, learned how to do it. It was really cool, like hearing their stories about being close to D&D but not actively like active players,
Yeah.
it was just great.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's cool. Yeah. Who was the best player, Richard? Who was your favorite? No pressure. I will never tell.
Oh no. Sazerac F. Negroni was the best character, however, right, Richard?
Oh my gosh. Uh, wow. That was such a good character. I'm excited to see more of that character, in fact, and I hope they have fantastic adventures. um, yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're using D&D Beyond pretty specifically now. When I started, it was like, we'll use D&D Beyond as a tool set, and then you'll have paper character sheets and roll real dice and stuff like that. And I've kind of given up on that
Yeah.
after week 2. Like, D&D Beyond is such a perfect way to build characters. Like when you oh my gosh, oh, I have so much to say about this. This is
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like just with 2 weeks, when you make a D&D character, do you roll dice first? Do you choose your attributes first?
I do.
Oh wow. Wait, knowing. So you roll dice first. You have your attributes, and then you like start putting your race and class together.
Kind of, right? Yeah, I start, well, no, I guess it's not. I
Right?
usually
Right?
start with something weird and obscure, and then I go backwards.
Hmm.
But I build I will often build the concept of the mechanics before I build the characters, history, story,
Hmm.
that type of concept. So usually the last thing
Yeah.
I pick is a background.
Yeah. Right.
But
But
yeah, I
we're
guess I don't start with rolling. Yeah.
but in second ed we did, and
Yeah.
every rule book starts with rolling dice. Like the fifth ed book, rolling dice is first, and
Huh.
it's ridiculous. Like we're just so used to it; it's ingrained. But D&D Beyond, the first thing you do is you pick your race, and the second thing is you pick your class.
Yeah.
Then you sort attributes out, and then you do backgrounds after that. So it's making characters as the combination of three choices, like race, class, background,
Yeah.
and stats are totally secondary. And on D&D Beyond, they're kind of done for you. Like I wish
Hmm.
attributes was just here, take these 6 and plug them in where you want to go, and then stop thinking about it. Like now
Yeah.
here's the final character sheet.
I mean, I kind of use standard array a fair amount, but
I do
you
too.
know, this does kind of drift a little bit into what we were planning on talking about today. In Pathfinder Second Edition, you don't roll stats anymore. You
Oh,
know,
really?
yeah. So what you
Huh.
do is you get a bonus based on your class. You get a bonus based on your race, ancestry. You get a bonus based on your background, and then you get to assign a certain number of stat boosts to a certain number of stats. And I think it's 4 at first level. And yeah, and then you plug those in, and so it's like a lot of the math is just kind of taken away because you're just incrementally increasing things. So once again, I think did we talk about that, the fact that I don't think it's possible to really, unless you really try, that you can build a bad character in Pathfinder Second Edition.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you have to go out of your way to actually try to do it. um, and the thing that we were specifically going to be kind of talking about today was ancestry, and how ancestry is this really interesting way of dealing with species where it is a challenge. So I want everyone to bring your worst Pathfinder Second Edition characters to the session next week, and we'll talk about it.
Now I'm
And
gonna try and build one.
Yeah, all right. I'll try to build one too. But yeah, I like the way that they handle that. So you select your species. I'm gonna go with species because I want to separate species and ancestry.
Yep.
And then you get ancestry feats to kind of highlight what kind of that species you are. So for example, goblin is one of the core races or core species in the book. With that one, you can be a goblin who has a tail. That's one ancestry. You
Uh-huh.
could be a goblin who really likes fire. That's another ancestry. You could be a super tough goblin, and then it's feat trees the whole way through. But in what they did with another thing that they did with the goblins was they kind of changed the way that they're seen in the world at large, right? In Pathfinder, and classically goblins, orcs, half orcs,
Yeah.
or not half orcs, but hobgoblins. Those types of things were seen as evil races, right? Bad races. You see them, you get to punch them, right? That's the
Exactly.
way it works.
Right.
But not so much anymore. In that goblins have began to introduce themselves into society, and that's kind of part of their story now. And so a lot of things are much more accepting. And this is something that we saw between third edition and fourth edition for like tieflings and drow,
Hmm.
right? And I don't
Right.
know so much about third edition for tieflings, but tieflings I played in second edition. They were heroic, but they weren't as demonic. You rolled on tables to get weird, things.
Yes. Yeah.
Any,
Absolutely.
but anywho, right? It's and so we're drifting further and further away from that idea.
Hmm.
And a lot of games are putting out different kind of mechanics to be more in tune with that idea. So we're seeing that more with Dungeons and Dragons. More things are going to be rolling out. I wonder what kind of language they're going to use. I wonder if they're just going to say, all right, well, Pathfinder stole so much from us, we're going to use ancestry. We like that.
Mm.
I think that's a good route to go.
Yeah. I was surprised. Well, not surprised. I was pleasantly surprised, I guess is the good way to say it. When recently I was looking up birthright things, and birthright classically, it's a European, like they wanted to build Eurasia basically, right?
Right.
In their big continent. And so they split it up into 5 human areas, and they just basically created 5 humanoid races way back in second ed when it was, still second ed. And someone had updated the whole thing, and they started talking about cultures, right?
Hmm.
And all of the trait bonuses that you get feel cultural. They're not tied to any kind of physicality in any way.
Yeah.
And that's exciting to me. There was a book on DM's Guild. You can get it right now. It's called Ancestry and Culture, and it's an alternative to race in 5th ed. And it does kind of what you're talking about. It separates the ideas of things that you might get through any kind of, I don't know, physical heritage, and the things that you get because of where you live. And it separates those and splits them up and just lets you kind of mix and match a whole lot of different things. And any advance in that direction, I think, is only good for this game.
Yeah.
Just as a way to be more, in tune with the world we actually live in. But also, yeah, no, I mean, I could get into like characters have more choices. That's great. But like, that's not the most important part of this discussion. I'm just so glad that this is in the conversation, and I expect D&D Beyond. I mean D&D, this has solid D&D writers, this DM's Guild product. So I expect this is the direction they will likely take, is starting to change this out and get away from this idea of a monolithic, racial identity, which is, I don't know. We can leave that with Tolkien. We can just let
Yeah.
that in the past and forget about it.
That's a Tolkien thing. It's not a D&D thing anymore.
No.
Yeah. No. In doing things like that, right? Like I'm going through and I'm making. So I may be playing a Pathfinder 2 game at some point soon, and I'm going through and so whenever I'm learning a new system, what I do is I just make a boatload of new characters, like so many new characters, and I tend to level them up to 5. I think I have currently 10 or 15 Pathfinder 2 characters that I've leveled up to 5, just kind of playing with the system a little bit, and then I'll learn more as I sit down to play it. But one of the things that's making me think a little bit more about by doing this is when I look at things like background, right? Where I'm from in the world, what my driving forces, those types of things. Like, oh, I used to be a city guard in, this weird town on the coast of blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
And then so now I'm like, okay, well, if I go that route, well, I need to look up that weird town on the coast of blah blah blah, because I know there's some history, because Galorian is full of history, I guess.
Yeah.
And and so it makes me think more about like, oh, it makes me think more about how my character will act in certain situations, how they'll interact with the party, how they'll interact with other people, just based on these choices that have also helped define my ability score spread and my skill spread and that type of stuff. So it's almost taking where like you said earlier, we used to start by just rolling the dice and defining our character based on those numbers.
Yep.
And now we're moving into we're using everything to so many different things to define our characters. And I love the way that it's like, race is not going to be a thing anymore. It's going to be, the species and then the ancestry of that, variation. Because, I mean, we're talking about a little bit, they're talking about Goliath in the new D&D adventure coming out in September. And they're saying like there's going to be a variation of Goliaths that have some kind of cold resistance or something like that.
Yeah,
that makes total sense. And then that's more ways we can kind of expand what we already have to make things more interesting. So more longevity to D&D at least.
Yeah,
at least this edition, that type of stuff. That's
very cool. Yeah, I keep looking at this DM's Guild product in particular. It's one of the things that I like that they do is what Pathfinder has done as well, is taken these abilities from any kind of like genetic sort of thing, right? And just putting them in the world, like making it a cultural thing. Like I love this because they describe what Dragonborn culture might be like, and now suddenly I know more about Dragonborn, right? But like, it's intense, it's exciting, it's the grand festivals, there's tons of physical competitions, performances, things like that. So those who grow up in a Dragonborn culture might be more likely to have strength or charisma bonuses, right? That's that's anybody who lives there and takes part in that, right? And I love that so much because it's it's just so good. It's so good. Like it gives us that mix and match capability, and it does make us more about like where we're from and our culture that we are embracing, however it works.
Right.
Gosh, I'm just happy. That's it. I don't have an end statement to this, except I'm happy for all of the direction that all of this is going.
Yeah, and and one thing, Paizo isn't always my favorite company. Like
Yeah.
they and that's and I've made that well known. I think there's a few things, and not that Wizards is always better, but one of the things that is interesting that I'm still trying to figure out is Agents of Nightwatch or Agents of Edwatch. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that, is in relation to the ancestry to this race, to race talk, because of where we're trying to advance the way that we play our games into to be, aligned with this growing and evolving world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things is Agents of Edgewatch, you essentially play police in a, in a city somewhere in, Pathfinder world, Galarian, whatever. And, in their heads when they were putting it out, they were like, okay, well, this is, in our head, you are a party of Sherlock Holmes and you are trying to bring a cult of sinister murderers to justice.
Right.
Right. But you're essentially police in this game, right? You are the city watch, you are the city police, and there's a lot of things about that's just, it's not great right now, right? In this
Mm-hmm.
in this time. And so what they've done is they've released an addition to the game, or they're releasing an addition to the game that's a free edition, to change the story a little bit from a story about being a bunch of cops to a story about a bunch of adventurers just trying to, prevent this cult.
Yeah.
And and I think these kinds of changes are good. Yeah, I don't know, like, I don't know if this was, the right move. Like, was it the right move to do this kind of adjustment as opposed to just pulling the game off the shelf? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely see. I'm curious to see how they do it, because if there is some sort of move away from like organized law, I guess, and more into a a Warehouse 13 style, I think there can still be the private detectives. I think
Yeah.
those stories are still valid and good, and if that's where their heart was, then awesome. I hope they were able to fix that.
Right.
Because yeah, this is really tricky. I know. I mean, the ability to come up with like law enforcement in the terms of like the Sherwood Forest Robin Hood narrative as like these specifically stupid, corrupt, whatever, is, and saying that's different than the norm, is just this position of total privilege of not having to worry about that. And it's too bad. It's unfair. It's where we're at. I was in a very similar position because I was recently, like, when I wrote Empyrean Investigations, I wrote these people that you might want to talk to and the things you could get from them. And one of the things that I did was like, and you could go talk to the legal authorities. And as I found myself talking about that, I was like, but I don't, hi, I don't want you to, there are consequences to that sort of thing. And it was definitely like, it was just a reminder that, if you've been been fortunate to be on the out of the radar of the police, then it's not a thing you've had to worry about. So I see. I'm hopeful that they fix it.
Yeah, and I hope, in what this brings hope to me, at least, is a lot of times in these adventures that are published, like, or you go out and play organized play, or you sit down with a group of strangers, there's that whole idea of the murder hobo, right? Like, I hope a lot of these transitions also pull away from that, toxic table interactions, the murder hovering, the the person who purposely drives a story into the ground, right? I think if we start pulling some of these things in the way we build our games and build our adventures, it's going to make for just a much better, more fun environment, more intriguing environment. Because sure, we're playing a bunch of vigilantes, but we need to have the right context as to why we're playing those vigilantes and how we act as vigilantes.
Absolutely. Yep. The last paragraph of this statement that they put out does seem like they want to make sure that they allow the opportunity for our player characters to have empathy, to be heroic, to serve a community. and to take that out of the context of any kind of law enforcement sort of thing, which I'm
Yeah.
much more interested in playing that game than. And there is a part of me, I used to read the old Discworld series, right?
Mhm.
I loved the Watch series, right? So those
Mhm.
characters are pretty interesting, but it's hard to look at that in just such a, with a narrow lens and ignore all these greater issues. Absolutely. So, yeah, good on them for changing it. You mentioned
Yeah.
like pulling it, and if they had done that, it would be good on them as well.
Right.
I would not
Yeah.
regret either of those.
Yeah, and you're right. It'll be good to see how this all plays out, like how the addition to the adventure plays out before really making the judgment on if they should have pulled it or not. And also, and I think part of it is if like they reprint it too. I'd like
Yes. Yeah.
like that's really what I would like to see. I'd like to see if they do a reprint of this to do the updated version,
Hmm.
right?
For sure.
Where you
Absolutely.
are just adventurers who strolled into town and you bump into this mystery, and and then maybe even lean into it a little bit, right? Like
Hmm.
the guards, the city watch, unhelpful. So you got
Yep.
to figure it out on your own.
Yep. That is, writing detective stories was really interesting because it was like I didn't want you to be working with them. I wanted them to be doing a thing and you to be doing your own thing. So,
Yeah.
so the hiring or whatever the support that you get, I mean, it's hard to make you totally independent when we think about this because we're used to these modern stories of like even private detectives are still working alongside, working with, asking each other questions. Um, yeah, totally independent investigators is kind of a tough sell in our current environments, but could totally exist in a fantasy world, with not even that many changes. Like, for example, I love Warehouse 13 because it just did you watch that show? It's
Yes. It's
Oh,
so
I
good.
love that show, right? It's the you were the caretakers of that warehouse that they put the Ark into in Indiana Jones, right? And
Hmm.
some of those things go missing, and you have to go get them, and you can't tell anyone what you're doing. You're remaining secret, or like Eureka.
Yeah.
It's a cool show about problems that don't exist in the real world, and so they don't conform to the standards, I guess, that we're used to in the real world. So,
Yeah.
anyway, over talking this, I think on my end, but I'm happy with this.
No. Yeah. Yeah. And I
Change it.
like for detectives type stories, like I love the idea of detectives working against the law, right?
Hmm?
And and I some of my favorite books that I've read are old detective noir books, right?
Yeah.
Not all of them are great, not all of them hold up the test of time, but the idea that you're wrong place at the wrong time and now you have to try to solve it, like I love that idea, especially if there's a police force who is actively, if not actively working against you, but working in a way that makes your job harder,
Yep.
right? Even if you are on the same side. And
Yeah.
that's, and I like that kind of narrative much better than, by the way, you have just, and that's let's talk about Pathfinder Society and Starfinder Society for a moment. I don't feel like you need to be part of an organization as soon as you start a game. Like
Right.
you walk in and
Yeah.
boom, here you are. You are now this organization. And then a lot of people, like you sit down at the table, they treat that organization like they are a privatized police force. And I'd rather it be like a group of heroes that got together, right? And it doesn't pan out that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's because of all the factions and all the way they kind of set up the society as the only people who can save the world. And it's
Yeah.
but
Yeah. There's other ways to do it. I keep thinking about the different Sherlock like incarnations. Like
mm,
Sherlock in the stories, is kind of friendly with a local like actually police detective. In the oh my gosh, wow, Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.
mhm,
movies, the police detective is totally inept, totally hampering them, totally a problem, helps
yeah,
them once or twice, but is
mhm,
otherwise like ignorable.
right,
And then in the new Sherlock, like there's this antagonistic trend between the two, which is really interesting. But they're also like they're more positive, and the total antagonism is left for like Mycroft and like the apparatus that controls the police, I guess. So
right,
there's so many ways to do it. So many
yeah.
ways. Um, Crow mentions in the chat. I wonder what Pratchett would do with the Night Watch if he was still alive. That's whoo. I
Yeah.
bet it would change very dramatically. I feel like Pratchett might have had a good take on that.
Yeah, I never read any of the Night Watch. I mostly stuck to the Death books
Mhm.
and the books about the Postmaster General.
Yeah. It was the watch books were interesting because you have the mayor who is like kind of good and trying, it was a lot about like trying to not be tyrannous to people. So that part was really endearing about it, and it's a part I do remember enjoying. There was a lot of also about making, there's a lot about diversity issues in there specifically. I mean, totally different context,
Right,
for
right.
sure, but there were a lot of stories about like this person doesn't belong anywhere else. Can they find a home amongst this like ragtag group of folks? So it was telling a
Cool.
different story for a different time, but it was good. I think it would have a good take these days.
Yeah, yeah. All right. As far as that topic goes, I don't really have a whole lot else to hit on. I'm just really
Yeah.
happy they're making some really good strides in that. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Me
mean,
too.
it's tough to really tough to really kind of build on that. It's good
Mhm.
they're making good strides, and I look
Yeah.
forward to seeing more of that as it comes up.
Right.
And let's see, did we talk about this oh yeah, no, we did answer that question from Twitter and Reddit. If anyone else has any questions, please feel free to toss those in the chat. I'm just pulling up our here we go. Ready? So we've been talking
Oh,
about
sure.
enemies, we've been talking about monsters, we've been talking about races.
Okay.
So here is a question that I saw from the D&D Next Reddit, and the question is, what is your favorite D&D enemy and why?
Ooh. Um, this is interesting because it's not monster, it's enemy, right? I am a big fan of the recurring villain. Who is a good one? So for me, I'm gonna jump into the Forgotten Realms world. What is Drizzt's enemy, the rogue, is
Artemis?
Jarlaxle. No,
Oh,
yes, yeah.
Jarlaxle.
No,
Mhm.
I want Artemis. I want Artemis. Right, running down to Kalimshan, doing all these different things,
Yep.
like this constant source of antagonism. Like I love him as a rival. Like I want to be a better assassin, but also I've got this other greed stuff and a whole bunch of other like power
Mhm.
plays going on. That character is really interesting to me. And I can see that character working easily into a campaign as a character who is a rival to, one of the people in the party. I can do what you do, but better.
Mhm.
Um, and a party that is good may not kill that person because it is more about rivalry than like constant combat. And
Mhm.
I find that to be a ton of fun. I've tried to do similar things. And sometimes, that's the set of rivals, like the rival adventurers that show up at the bar right next to you and you
Yep.
get in a fight.
Mhm.
I love that sort of stuff. Those are my favorite kind of enemies, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I like using, so the example that they gave in the post was, the person said, personally, I think it's Beholder.
Oh,
Beholder's a
okay, okay.
Beholder's great, right? It's a monster specifically. But I'm with you. I'm a big fan of enemy organizations,
Hmm.
right? Whether it is another adventuring group or it is, something like the Xanathars, right? Or the Zentarum.
Yep.
I like organizations as an enemy type, right? Because like, it in my current campaign, like they're dealing with the Xanathars a lot.
Sure.
And yeah, and essentially like what Five Iron Fanatics said, they end up being like Team Rocket a little bit, right?
Uh-huh.
I throw these thugs and it's just, all I have to say is like, oh, they have eyeballs tattooed on them, or oh, they have eyeballs painted all over
And
them.
then it's on.
And then they know that it's the Xanathars after them again, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And the Xanathars have been a thorn in the side of my players since level 1,
Hmm.
and they will be continue to be a thorn in the side all the way through the entire adventure. Now, whether they're the big bad at the very end, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But they're
Yeah.
always going to be there, and always going to be present to cause more trouble.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, having a plan, like having that plan develop and change as your campaign changes is very cool. Like
Yeah.
you see them in a region and you're like, "Oh, what are you doing here? Okay, we've stopped your thing, but now I know that they're trying to do this like all over the place. So now I can, be spread
Mm,
out a little bit
a little
more."
bit bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that stuff. Organizations are the best enemies. That's so good. Mine right now in my champions is called the the Lonely Hearts Club band, and
Okay.
they all there's like the Ace of Hearts and the King of Hearts and the Jack of Hearts and the Queen of Hearts.
Oh no.
And it's so silly. And like the lower level thugs are all the numbers and they all have like a card and it's all like a ranked sort of thing. And so like, oh, you got a 7 of hearts. It's just meant to be silly.
I mean, have you watched D&D Beyond?
I mean,
I'm just saying. Or not D&D Beyond, Batman Beyond.
Oh yeah, right.
The Royal Flush Gang.
The Royal Flush Gang, that's right. It's just fun. And then, they're always like, oh my gosh, we've just foiled the plans of the Jack. We just learned some things about the Queen. And so it just like, it just levels up. It's just ridiculous. In our last few adventures, they were like, wait, is there a Joker? Is there a Joker in charge of this? Or is it going to stop at the Ace?
Oh.
Well, they haven't heard much about the Ace. So it's very silly and very fun.
And then you have the Joker in your back pocket just in case they get to the Ace too early.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's fun to build things like that, right? Because now there's so much thinking and so much processing, and it's so easy to just be like, well, today's adventure, yeah, sure, they're doing this now. This is their thing now. Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway.
All right. Well.
Time.
Yep. It's our time. And all right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you would like to check me out through the week, you can find me at 2HitAC0 on Twitter and Instagram. You can also check out my DJing sets at Dread Pirate Rabbits right here on Twitch. That's Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So yeah, check it out. And then Rich, how can people see you while I disappear from frame and get ready to
hit the button?
Scene? Yep.
You can find me online at Armelina. I'm doing a lot of background work for sure, running camp and also getting ready to put out the Game Theory in the Age of Chaos Omnibus coming soon to I don't know, the internet. So hopefully you'll be able to check it out there. But yeah, find us online. And thanks for being here.